Hello, my name is Cosette. I'm the Communications Instructor for the Faculty of Nursing, and as you clicked on this tutorial, I'm here to guide you through the basics of writing an effective introduction to your paper. I have lots that I wish to tell you, so please listen carefully, but pause the tutorial when you need more time to read the exemplars or to think over what I've said. I'm going to show you two example introductions from successful papers that a student has written in the Faculty of Nursing as a way of explaining the key features of an effective introduction. Through these example introductions and my instructions, we will examine three main things. What kind of information goes in an introduction, how an introduction is organized, and how long a typical introduction to a scholarly paper should be. The first example introduction is from a successful paper for the Prevention of Illness course, found below. Please pause here and take a moment to carefully read this introduction. Effective introductions are made up of background information, a thesis statement, and are specifically tailored to the course you're writing the paper for. The background information is everything that your reader needs to know to get ready to read your paper. What kind of background information is included in the introduction above from the Prevention of Illness course? The thesis statement or purpose statement tells your reader how you will address the topic or your goal of the paper. Which sentence or sentences in the above introduction are the thesis of the paper? And what specifically does this thesis tell your reader? Lastly, how is this introduction tailored specifically to the Prevention of Illness course? Take a moment to think of your answer to these questions before scrolling down to the next page. Information above in red, or the first four sentences in the introduction, is the background information for this paper. The reader learns the health concern, that is suicide, the client population, elderly or older adults, and the relevance of your topic of interest, in this case, the relevance of suicide in the prevention of illness. The statements that are represented in blue are the very direct thesis statement and represent what is the instructions to the assignment, another great reason to read your syllabus. You tell the reader then what you will accomplish in this paper in these one or two sentences that make up the thesis. This introduction is tailored to a prevention of illness paper because the fourth statement in the introduction is focused on preventing suicide in this population. If you've never written a thesis statement like one listed above, go to the next page in this Word document and you'll see instructions for how to write thesis statements. This thesis statement has two parts. You want to identify the topic of your paper and the subsequent subtopics that will form the subsection of your paper. For example, this page shows how to develop the first part of the thesis statement. The topic is basic hand washing procedures. The second page shows you how to break down that topic of hand washing procedures into subtopics using language such as in terms of, including, such as, or taking into account. These subtopics, in this case routine hand wash and surgical hand wash, will form the main sections of your paper. In this example introduction from Law and Ethics, I'd like you to notice the way in which the writer has started with a very general statement that is relevant to this course, Law and Ethics, and how each subsequent sentence outlines the specific details about this case of the pregnant client. Then I'd like you to recognize the very specific or most specific thesis statement at the end of the introduction. So I'd like you to notice this introduction progresses from the most general to the most specific of information. Please take a moment to read carefully through this introduction and have a look at the flow from the most general to the specific information. On this next page, I'd like you to notice that in the very first sentence of this introduction, we have a very general statement about the way in which this case is linked to the law and ethics course. In the next sentence, we identify that this ethical situation occurred at this particular location, who the client was in the next sentence, a 16-year-old pregnant adolescent. We identified next her mother and her mother's link to the case, that she wanted the pregnancy terminated. And then we identified next in the sentence the conflicting opinion of the daughter, and as a result that this is a case that requires consideration in the law and ethics course. So we move from increasing specificity in the details about this particular case. Finally, we finish the introduction with the most specific sentence that says what the student will do in this paper, and that is discuss this case in terms of these particular aspects: accountability, confidentiality, and dignity. Before we close, I'd like to talk for a moment about the length of an introduction, the typical length of an introduction for a scholarly paper. As you can see here, introductions are relatively short. If you are writing a scholarly paper that's just a few pages, let's say 2 pages to 4 pages, your introduction will be fairly short, likely 3 to 5 sentences, and include less background information before the thesis statement. With increasing length of the page limit on your paper, your introduction will get a bit longer. Let's say you're writing a paper from 7 to 15 pages. In this case, you can aim for an introduction that's about half a page to 3/4 of a page long. These are just general rules, however. Try to keep your introduction at the most on 1 page. I hope these instructions have been helpful in putting together an introduction for your paper for the Faculty of Nursing. If you have further questions about how to write an introduction, please feel free to contact me at my information on the Help from the Communications Instructor part of the Faculty of Nursing website at the University of Manitoba.